The wind that swept across the riverlands carried the scent of plowed loam and distant fires, as though the world itself could not decide whether it meant to sow new life or scour the old away. In the calm that followed the rebellion, King Robert Baratheon had grown accustomed to that uncertainty. Unrest settled on his broad shoulders like a boar-hide cloak, and he bore it with the same grudging patience he offered every burden laid upon him since he'd seized the Iron Throne. Yet even in his cups, when the wine ran dark and his laughter louder, there were nights he felt the earth shudder beneath storm's end, as though some slumbering giant shifted in its grave. On such a night he dreamed of the trident again. Silver armor polished bright as dawn, rubies skipping across blue water, and the sound, gods, the sound of his hammer striking plate. He woke with his jaw clenched and his heart racing, eyes scanning for ghosts only he could see. Beside him, the young woman whose name he'd forgotten blinked in bleary fright and scurried away, dragging the sheets to shield her nakedness. Robert barely noticed. Sweat beaded on his brow, though the autumn chill seeped through the shutter slits. The warmth he felt came from within, a heat stoked by the ruinous memory of Rhaegar Targaryen falling beneath his hammer. He rose and strode naked to the window, the cold stone beneath his feet anchoring him to the present. Dawn bruised the eastern sky, bleeding from lavender to pale rose over Blackwater Bay. Ships bobbed at anchor, their masts etched against the lilac horizon like a thicket of pikes. Somewhere far below, the city roof stirred with first light, but Robert saw instead a broad river turned red, and rubies dancing like droplets of molten dust. He touched the pane as if he might brush the vision away, and wished, not for the first time, that the dead stayed in the ground when a man sank them there. In the months since Jon Arryn's death, Robert felt his kingdom fraying. Lords muttered of debts, small folk spoke of shadows with wings, and in the street of silk brothels whispered that the dragon prince's son lived still, hidden in the free cities. Robert scoffed each rumor in public, but alone he festered. If only he could strike the boy as he had struck the father. Yet the father lay crushed beneath armor and riverbed, and everyone swore the boy Aegon dead atop the steps of Maegor's Holdfast the night King's Landing fell. Still, rumor clings to breath, whisper grows to word and word to oath. And now Ravensport reported a golden-haired harper strolling taverns, playing a silver-strung lyre, half his face hidden behind a mask of hammered rubies. Rhaegar reborn, fishermen swore. A Targaryen ghost. Robert spat at the thought, for ghosts are naught but the coward's excuse to fear daylight, but deep within, a tremor answered. The notion that Rhaegar yet lingered, flesh or spirit, dug talons beneath his ribs. Across the narrow sea in Pentos, a man who called himself Sir Arlen Waters stitched a black cloak, with the three-headed dragon, wrought in silver thread. Beneath the hood, his hair gleamed like poured moonlight, though the rest he kept shrouded. Even Illyrio Mopatis, whose wealth clung to him like perfume, could not pry back that hood, and so he fed the man on half-guesses and full plates, until arrogance bid him boast. The fat king grows fatter, Illyrio said one evening, stroking his perfumed beard. He hunts more boar than Boltons hunt wolves. Prince Viserys and Princess Daenerys wander across my threshold, with nothing but names to trade. Yet King Robert spends coin enough on wine to ransom 3 princes. He laughed, rings clinking against his goblet. A generous fool. Your cause might fatten on that folly, if only someone had the courage to light the spark. Sir Arlen listened, his gloved hands steady on the cup, but in the bruised candlelight his eyes flashed violet, clear, cold, restless. King Robert has courage enough, he said, voice soft as plucked strings. He slew a dragon once after all. Does he still dream of it, do you think? Aye. Illyrio's jowls quivered in delight. Aye. Wine will drown many things, but not victory. He dreams of the riverbed and rubies. They tell me he hates the sight of jonquils now. Reminds him of of Rhaegar's princess, perhaps. At that, the hooded man lowered his gaze. Long fingers toyed with the goblet stem while silence pooled between them. When he spoke again, his words swirled with quiet menace. And what of Westeros? Do they still sing the songs of the Dragon Prince? Illyrio shrugged. Songs linger longer than men. The small folk remember Rhaegar, as they remember Baelor the Blessed and Rhaegar the Cruel, as ghosts in store. But all ghosts fade when a new war horn blows. Then, the hood lifted slightly. Then let it blow. Illyrio's laughter died. He studied the hidden face, weighed the clipped syllables. The man did not shift, did not blink. In that moment, Illyrio sensed what most courtiers fail to grasp: the fragility of crowns. You would stand against Robert? He asked. I would stand for the realm. Sir Arlen replied, though again something older echoed beneath the words. It has a king grown lax, and princes who know only play. I would give it a warrior and a healer, a dragon's fire, tempered by winter's steel. So Rhaegar rides again. Illyrio spread fingers heavy with gems. Courtiers claimed he died beneath Robert's fury. The trident ran red, they say. The trident will run red again, Sir Arlen whispered. This time perhaps the rubies will belong to Robert. When he left Pentos at dawn, he left no coin unpaid, less from courtesy than from desperation to leave no trait of his passing. Yet rumors seated on the wind cannot be weighed like coins. They take root in men's fears, and by the time Sir Arlan's ship struck Bravos a fortnight later, whispers stalked the docks. A herald of the dragon stirred in Westeros, seeking swords. The Bravosi shrugged, for they bowed to the Titan, not some half-drowned prince, but sellsword companies pricked their ears. War meant gold. Gold meant feasts and whorehouses and armor, etched with arrogance. Soon, 3 galleys weighed anchor. The Golden Company sailed beneath its grinning skull, the maiden's men beneath a maiden's tear, and across the summer sea, others readied. In King's Landing, Ned Stark found Robert pacing the Red Keep at sunrise, bare-chested beneath a fur-lined cloak, though the air bit cruel. Ned had marched south to be hand and found instead a friend who drank sorrow by the gallon, chasing it with a muddle of rage and regret. Robert's feet tracked the same worn path between throne room and armory, as though he could grind stone thinner than his patience. What curses the dawn, Robert? Ned asked. Robert grunted. Ghosts. Dreams. Dreams pass in time. Not this one. Robert thrust a parchment into Ned's hand. From Gulltown. Fisherman claims he saw a dragon banner flying off a black-hulled galley. Says its captain wore rubies at his throat. Them? Ned read in silence. The notion chilled him. More than the letter's ink bled a sense of creeping doom. Anyone can stitch a dragon banner. There are smugglers who do so for sport. Eh? Robert's laugh scraped like iron. Tell me, Ned, do smugglers wear rubies in the shape of falling stars? He saw a 7-pointed constellation. That was Rhaegar's brooch, the one the boy Aegon wore on feast days. A dragon in a night sky. Ned frowned. You buried Rhaegar at the Trident. I held the crown while you knelt in victory. And now? I smashed his breastplate and crushed his chest. Robert's gaze slid to the distant shimmer of Blackwater Bay. But suppose I hit only armor? Suppose the man lived? What vengeance would he crave? He would crave more than vengeance. Ned folded the letter with care. Rhaegar always spoke of duty. If he lived, he would raise banners openly, with honor. Honor? Robert barked. He took Lyanna from her father's hall. Where was honor then? Ned felt the familiar ache at her name. Lyanna, gentle as winter sunlight yet wild as the wolf's wood. He mastered his voice before speaking. If you believe that, why does this phantom trouble your sleep? A dead man cannot harm you. Because one did, Robert muttered. And maybe he comes again. Far across the reach, Ser Barristan Selmy knelt in a tumbledown sept overgrown with ivy. Candles guttered in cracked sconces, and the floor strewn with shattered tile. Yet the statue of the maiden still watched with marble serenity, her face unsullied by time. Barristan bowed to her and drew his sword, the blade glinting like sunrise. He vowed service to the rightful king, as he had sworn to Aerys, and later to Robert. Oaths bound steel to flesh, yet men had sundered them with ease these past years. He closed his eyes, thinking of the boy he had failed to save. Prince Rhaegar would have been a good king, he whispered to the maiden, confession on his tongue. A tremor shook the earth. Barristan rose, hand on hilt. Hoofbeats echoed outside. Riders, swift and sure. The door burst inward. Captain John Connington strode first, clad in mail, chased with red griffins. Behind him thundered half a dozen knights, bearing a silver dragon on sable field. Barristan's heart lurched. Connington removed his helm, auburn hair damp with sweat. "Sir Barristan," he said, "I feared you would be gone before we arrive." "I was praying," Barristan replied. "Pray faster. The prince waits." Barristan took pity on his weary bones, but honor demanded he follow. Outside the sept a host camped beneath oaks, banners of the Griffin's Roost, the Golden Company, and others that had not flown in Westeros since the rebellion. At their heart stood a silver command tent, its entrance flanked by unsullied bearing spears. Connington pushed aside the flap. Within, a man rose from maps. He wore plain black armor, unadorned save for a cloak, dark as midnight with a single silver comet embroidered at the throat. When he pulled back his hood, Barristan's breath failed. The face was older, lined by pain, yet the violet eyes blazed unchanged. Hair silver gold fell past his shoulders. Barristan dropped to one knee. "Your Highness." Rhaegar Targaryen extended a gauntleted hand. "Rise." "Sir Barristan Toe. Your counsel served my father, though he seldom heeded it. I would do better." "No." Barristan stood, weary and elated. "How, Prince? My king?" "How is this possible?" "A river cannot swallow the wind," Rhaegar said. "The trident nearly broke me. Connington's men dragged me from the water half dead, hid me among Brevosian healers. I awoke to a world lost. My children—" His voice faltered, grief flickering. Little Rhaenys. Baby Aegon. Slaughtered. My father burned within the Red Keep. I had dreamed of ending my father's cruelty, and instead, I brought hell upon them all. Oh. Barristan's throat tightened. "I would have fought the mob. I tried." Rhaegar laid a hand upon his shoulder. "I know. The blame is mine. But I will not let the realm decay beneath Robert's indulgence and the Lannisters' greed. Now the realm needs a dragon tempered by loss." Connington tapped a shore map. "We sail at moonrise. Mace Tyrell's loyalty wavers. Highgarden sees the crown slipping. If we land near Old Town, we may rally the Reach." Barristan studied the forces. "Robert will respond fast. He lives for war." "No. He lives for ale," Connington muttered. "A drunken boar is still dangerous," Barristan cautioned. Rhaegar's gaze drifted to a ruby circling his index finger. "One plucked from the trident, set anew. Let him come. The wheel turns, Sir Barristan. If the gods grant me another duel beneath open sky, I will not hesitate." The royal court learned of dragon sails on the morrow. Small council convened in haste at Maegor's Holdfast. Grand Maester Pycelle trembling, Renly Baratheon smirking at danger, and Varys the Spider whispering calm as silk. Ned stood at Robert's side. When the king pounded his fist, the council cords rattled like bone. "The dragon lives," Robert declared. "I'll not sleep while he breathes. Assemble the host." Renly's smile widened. "Half the realm will answer, brother. They love a good brawl." Ned cleared his throat. "Some may remember Rhaegar's mercy. He forbade sack at Duskendale, paid bounties from his own purse to feed the poor. They may question which king deserves their swords." "Then we remind them," Robert snarled. "The realm is mine by conquest and blood. I'll smash Rhaegar again." He stalked from the chamber, Ned in tow. In the corridor, Ned caught Robert's arm. "You must weigh caution against pride. Thousands died last time you met. Thousands more will die now." Robert's eyes narrowed. "You believe I should yield?" "I believe the realm cannot bear another war." Robert shook him off. The realm is already at war. Only it hasn't awakened. Dragons stir, wolves growl, lions sharpen claws. I will end this before dawn becomes day. Autumn filled the stormlands with gold and rust, leaves spinning like coins in a gambler's toss. Robert's host gathered beneath the banners of House Baratheon, Tyrell Lannister and more, 80,000 strong, spears glinting, warhammers and morning stars ready. Cersei stood atop the walls of King's Landing, while Robert mounted his charger, the warhammer that felled Rhaegar resting across his saddle. Ned rode at his flank, pondering duty's cruel demands. He could not refuse to ride, honor bound him to stand at Robert's side. Yet the thought of killing Rhaegar again, if indeed Rhaegar lived, gnawed at him. Rhaegar had loved Lyanna, perhaps kidnapped her. Or perhaps she had gone freely. Ned would never know. But killing him a second time felt like striking at ghosts. They rode south toward Bitterbridge, where scouts reported the dragon host, advancing north from Old Town. Harvest fires smoked across the horizon. Farmers burning fields ahead of the armies so no foe might feed. Refugees clogged the Roserad. Ned dismounted often, offering water, coin, and stern commands for the soldiers to spare the small folk. Robert saw and said nothing, though Ned noticed approval flicker in his friend's darkening eyes. Between harvest moons the two forces marched like howling storms converging. Ravens flew frantic from holdfast to holdfast carrying word. Banners of black and silver soared beside crimson griffins and golden skulls. Dragons walked in daylight again. When at last they drew within sight near the Mander's upper reaches, both armies spread across rolling meadowland veined by low hedgerows and ancient barrows. The sky hung slate. Distant thunder rolled though no storm brewed, a sound of drums echoing across valley and ridge. Knights whispered that the gods mourned what was to come. Robert spurred forward, his hammer raised. Across the meadow a lone figure mirrored him. A rider draped in onyx cloak, helm fashioned like a dragon's head wrought in silver steel, visor open to reveal solemn violet eyes. Lances of hush ran through both hosts. "It's him," Robert breathed. The hammers half creaked in his grip. "Gods be good. He's older." Ned glanced at Robert. "So are we." Robert's grin flashed wild. "We'll see who's slower." Rhaegar dismounted, removed helm, and walked forward on foot. Robert copied him. The meadow seemed to tilt beneath Ned's gaze, as though time slipstreamed back to the Trident, yet everything anew. No river's roar, no rubies losing themselves to current, only grass swaying and two men stepping into history once more. Rhaegar wore black plate chased with subtle Valyrian glyphs. At his hip hung Dark Sister, Aegon's ancient blade. Robert hefted his warhammer, dented from 1,000 drunken tosses into hearths, yet solid as the mountain from which the ore was mined. They stopped 10 paces apart. "Your Grace," Rhaegar began, voice neither timid nor proud. "I come not for vengeance, but for justice." Robert barked a laugh. "Spare me. You come for crown." "I come to heal the realm you scarred," Rhaegar replied. "But only one of us may guide its future." Robert's knuckles whitened. "We settled this once. And yet blood still pools, debts unpaid. Let us settle it again. My sword, your hammer, no banners, no armies, the realm need not burn for our pride." Murmurs surged through knights on both sides. Some shouted to deny, to claim hostage or demand concessions. But Robert's smile hardened into something like youth rekindled. "Done," he said. "If I fall, my men will yield the crown to your mercy." "Swear the same." Rhaegar drew Dark Sister and laid the blade across his palms. "If I fall, my followers will stand down. I swore to protect the innocent. I will bind them with my death." Ned's heart thudded. Battle by champions offered swift resolution or disaster. Yet honor beat equally on both men's brows. He rode forward. "I will witness and hold each host to the vow. Let none break it or face House Stark's wrath." Robert chuckled. "If they break it, there'll be none left to face." He shrugged off his cloak, muscles rolling beneath scars. Rhaegar removed his gauntlets, flexing long fingers, then set his helm upon his head, The dragon visor clanked into place. A hush fell, as though the wind itself knelt. They circled. Robert's hammer swung in lazy feints, feet planting with surprising grace for a man of his girth. Rhaegar's blade flickered, testing range. Grass flattened beneath boots. A lark rose, shrieking at the sudden quake. Rhaegar struck first, a diagonal slice to Robert's thigh. Robert twisted, the hammer's haft blocking, wood splintering under Valyrian steel. He responded with an overhead sweep aimed at Rhaegar's shoulder. The prince rolled left, hammer crashing mere inches behind. The ground trembled, earth spit upward. They moved faster than watchers could follow, a blur of brute force and honed precision. Robert's strength battered the air. Rhaegar's cunning slid past swings, Dark Sister a sliver of shadow slicing arcs. Sparks flew when steel met steel, ringing across the field like temple bells. Sweat dampened cloaks of men who dared not breathe. Minutes stretched. Robert's breath came loud, condensing in cool air. Yet his blue eyes burned bright. Rhaegar's visor shattered where the hammer grazed, exposing one cheek bloodied. He spat crimson, stepped into Robert's space, and scored a cut across the king's bicep. Robert roared, backhanded the hammer. A wild gamble, catching Rhaegar's breastplate. Metal buckled. The prince staggered, fell to one knee. Robert advanced, raising the hammer for the killing blow. Suddenly, Rhaegar spun, sweeping Robert's legs with the blade flat. Robert crashed sideways. The hammer flew. Grass muffled its landing. Both men rose simultaneously. Blood stained Robert's tunic. Rhaegar's chest oozed behind cracked plate. They eyed each other, chests heaving, and in that instant, unspoken passed. An acknowledgement of the path behind them, the corpses and songs and broken crowns. Rhaegar spoke first, voice raw. Wall. It needn't end as before. Robert wiped blood from his lip. Aye. This time I'll bury you deep enough the trident won't spit you out. He charged bare-handed, seizing Rhaegar's sword arm, wrenching Dark Sister askew. Rhaegar headbutted, helm crashing into Robert's brow, splitting skin. Robert howled but maintained grip, twisting. The blade clanged away, lost in grass. Now they grappled like wrestlers of old, gauntlet clawing at gorget, hand locking elbow. Rhaegar's knee drove into Robert's gut. Robert's forehead slammed Rhaegar's helm again. They broke apart, gasped, lunged simultaneously, each seizing the other's throat. Two kings stood locked, eyes inches apart. Violet meeting storm blue, hands squeezing life. Slowly, Robert forced Rhaegar to his knees. The prince's gauntlet scraped futilely at Robert's thick wrist. Vision narrowing, Rhaegar thrust fingers between gorget and collar, found a thin, unhealed scar near Robert's clavicle, and dug. Pain flared. Robert's grip faltered. Rhaegar surged upward, ramming shoulder into Robert's jaw. Bone cracked. Robert reeled, stunned. Rhaegar flung aside his own helm, and dove for the hammer half buried in grass. He lifted it awkwardly, heft beyond habit, but turned in time to parry Robert's charging fist. The hammer's head clipped Robert's ribs. Something gave. Robert coughed, blood-flecking beard. Silence swallowed the field. Both men tottered, each bearing wounds mortal in lesser souls. The hammer trembled in Rhaegar's hands. He seemed astonished by its weight, the symbol of everything that crushed his first life. Robert regarded him through swollen eyes, lips curled in rueful admiration. "You've grown stronger," Robert rasped. "Lost temper's strength," Rhaegar answered, raising the hammer. Robert closed his eyes, spread arms as if to embrace the strike. But Rhaegar hesitated. Memories of sons slaughtered, of a realm aflame. He saw Branfields burned under Eris, saw the charred bones of children in the Red Keep, saw Lyanna dying in blood-soaked petals. His hands shook. Robert opened his eyes and reached behind to his belt, drawing a dagger. Rhaegar saw the glint too late. Robert lunged, short blade plunging for the gap at Rhaegar's armpit. Instinct wrenched the hammer down. And there, again, history pivoted on a heartbeat. The hammer crushed Robert's forearm, snapping bone, but the dagger slid between mail rings, burying in Rhaegar's flank. They collapsed together, entangled in grass, blood mingling. Host forces gasped, swords half drawn but bound by oaths. Robert groaned, pinned by the weight of his own shattered arm. Rhaegar lay motionless, face waxen, eyes unfocused. Ned ran to them, dropping to knees. He pressed cloth to Rhaegar's wound. Crimson gushed. Robert attempted to rise. Pain drove him back. "End it, Ned," he wheezed. "Kill him. Finish it." Ned glanced from Robert's pleading glare to Rhaegar's flickering lids. "He lives yet. Hell haunt us again," Robert spat. "Do it." A hush swept across the barrows as thousands waited upon the stroke of a single sword. Ned Stark, bound by honor to two kings, weighed justice against mercy. Killing Rhaegar might quell revolt, but witness the cost. Robert half broken, the realm trembling. Spare Rhaegar, and perhaps the Dragon Prince finally would heal what his father burned. Ned met Rhaegar's gaze. "Speak. Do you still seek the throne?" Rhaegar's lips moved. "No crown," he whispered. "Only peace." Robert coughed laughter, turned rasp. "Peace? After all this?" "Then so. The king who rises," Rhaegar murmured, "must rise for the people." His hand, slick with blood, found Ned's. "Swear it." Ned's throat closed. "On my honor." Rhaegar exhaled, a slow, shuddering breath that seemed to carry a lifetime's weight, and his eyes stilled. Robert's roar shattered the hush. He cradled his mangled arm, cursing heavens and dragons and fate. Knights rushed to his side, healers to Rhaegar though breath no longer stirred. The oaths held. Connington bade his forces lay down arms. Lords of the Reach sheathed swords. Two kings entered the meadow. Only one left, but the victor bore wounds deeper than flesh. In the weeks that followed, Ned tended Robert through fevered nights. Maesters mended bone, cleansed infection, but rage none could salve. "He chose mercy," Ned said once, when Robert raged at shadows. "Mercy killed him," Robert spat. "Mercy spared the realm. The dragon host has disbanded. The Golden Company returns across the sea." Robert stared at the bandages swathing his arm. "They'll come again. Dragons never die. They sleep." Ned laid a hand on his friend's shoulder. "Then let them sleep. Rebuild the bridges the war burned. Feed your people. Rule with the strength Rhaegar sought and you claimed." "Thine." Robert's gaze softened, grief drowning fury. "Lyanna asked me once to be kind," he whispered. "I've been anything but. I saw only the hammer. Maybe the hammer's done." "That choice lies with you," Ned said. Outside the tent dawn glimmered, gentle as a new forged blade catching first light. Soldiers dismantled camps, singing low songs of home. And upon a small barrow overlooking the battlefield, they placed two stones, one of onyx veined with silver, one of storm-black basalt streaked crimson. No banner flew above, for no house claimed that ground. Yet travelers who walked the Mander's upper reaches in years to come spoke of strange hush that lingered there, a stillness both solemn and serene, as though two giants slept beneath, their quarrel spent at last. And the realm breathed. For a time. The raven's cry pierced dawn like a needle threading the rent seams of Westeros. Gray wings beat over hammered tents and churned mud, circling as if to read the sigils half drowned in last night's rain. Ned Stark paused beside the smoldering embers of a watchfire, the charcoal scent clinging to his cloak. He stroked Ghost's pale muzzle. His stallion wore flecks of ash like winter's first snow, and listened as the camp woke beneath bruised light. Somewhere distant, a smith coaxed anvil song from bent cuirass. Elsewhere, healers whispered prayers over men who would not see midday. Amid that hush and clamor, Ned felt the realm balance upon a knife's edge, as fragile as hoarfrost on a summer leaf. Rhaegar Targaryen had fallen a second time, gifting Robert Baratheon a crown already his by conquest. Yet the cost lingered like a phantom limb. Maester Lomis, summoned from Old Oak, emerged from Robert's pavilion with robes streaked red at the sleeves. Ned intercepted him. "How fares the king?" "Like a bull with two spears in its flanks." Lomi sighed. "The arm mends, but pride festers. He refuses milk of the poppy, rails at every servant, demands mead. He tears half the stitches each time he tries to lift that hammer. If he keeps on, the bone will never knit true." "Danshawa." Ned's stomach nodded. Robert's rage was a thing of storm and thunder, but beneath it Ned glimpsed an emptiness yawning wider by the hour. A gulf Rhaegar's last breath had somehow carved open. Has he spoken of the council? Only to curse it. Lomi's dabbed sweat from his brow. Lord Tywin sends riders thrice a day, insisting the king withdraw to King's Landing for proper care. But Robert scorns Lannister comforts. He'll march with his men or die on the road, he says. Better he march toward healing, Ned muttered. Across the encampment, John Connington approached under a flag of truce, flanked by 2 Golden Company captains, stripped of helms and swords. Their steps were heavy with defeat's gravity, yet their spines held a certain weary dignity. Ned advanced to meet them at the boundary stone where last night's oaths were spoken. Connington bowed. His auburn hair lay lank with rain, eyes rimmed red from sleepless grief. "Lord Stark," he began, "we come to honor our pledge. Prince Rhaegar's host will surrender arms and disperse." "Harm no small folk, and you may keep your lives," Ned replied, studying their faces for deceit. "Lady Paramount Olenna Tyrell offers safe passage through the Reach." One captain, a gaunt Bravosi called Mycos, dipped his head. "We are sellswords. Our word binds us tighter than gold. We will ride east with empty purses before breaking it." Connington's gaze flicked toward the king's pavilion. "And Robert? Will he honor mercy? I know the man of old, but wounds change hearts." Ned's voice cooled. "The king will honor what I hold him to. He is not his father." Connington's shoulders sagged. "Nor was Rhaegar his, yet he lies dead. Forgive me. Grief draws barbs unsheathed." Ned inclined his head. "Grief speaks truths we choke on. Go in peace, John Connington. Carry your prince's legacy across the sea if you must, but leave no embers smoldering in our fields." They clasped forearms in the old soldier's grip, and for a heartbeat Ned felt years peel away to those bright days before summer's end, before halls burned and crowns crumbled. Connington turned, leading his men into mist that still clung to the hollows. Banners that had soared proud only weeks ago now drooped like tattered sails at low tide. Ned returned to Robert's pavilion. Within, braziers fought the damp. Steam hissed off iron logs. Robert sat upon a camp stool too narrow for his girth, swathed in linen. His left arm rested in a sling bound to chest and shoulder with girding chains to discourage movement. Yet his right hand clutched a flagon cast in bull's head shape, froth dribbling down its copper muzzle. His beard was flecked with blood where fresh stitches crossed his broken brow. "And where he been skulking, Stark?" he growled, yet the edge dulled even as he spat the words. "Sentimental stroll with dragon lovers?" Ned folded arms. "I dismissed Rhaegar's host. They ride home or east. The realm breathes easier." "No realm breathes easy, not while gold cloaks trip over Lannisters in their own shadows," Robert muttered. He slugged ale, amber foam spilled. "Tywin will crow over this wound, claim I'm unfit to hold a tankard let alone a throne. Already Cersei flaps her tongue about regency councils and special measures." "She is your queen," Ned reminded gently, "and mother to your heir." "Heir." Robert's lip curled. "A sickly babe who squalls like a plucked goose." "He is only 2, Ned said. "He will grow strong. If the gods favor me with sons half so stubborn as their sire." Robert exhaled ragged. "Stubbornness killed Rhaegar. Yours, mine, his. Who can parse the weight?" His blue eyes drifted to where his hammer, blood-caked, half-splintered, yet still forbiddingly solid, rested across 2 trestles. "I keep waking, Ned. I see him pausing, mercy in his gaze, and still I reached for steel. Why? You feared what he would become, Ned replied, though doubt gnawed at him. Fear is the bane of reason. Kings should fear nothing. Robert shook off the notion. No matter. Mercy is for maids and maesters. I lived, he died. The song ends. He tried to gulp ale again, but grimaced at the ache rippling through fractured ribs. 12 years I dreamed of that man's death, and now he lies in a box of cedar and silver. I thought I'd feel lighter. Grief pooled in the silence. Ned stepped forward. Lightness never comes when you bury part of yourself with the enemy. Robert met his gaze, brow furrowing. Must you speak in riddles? Fetch me wine strong enough to scald regret from my tongue. Wine can drown only so long, Ned warned. I will ride ahead to King's Landing. Preparations must be made. The city jittered at rumors of dragonfire. They require the king's voice, if not the king's presence. Robert grunted approval. Go then. Tell Cersei her father can dandle me on a dais when I return. But until I do, she sits quiet. Ned bowed stiffly. He lingered one beat longer. When your arm heals, lay down the hammer for a time. Teach your son what kind of king you wish him to be. Robert did not answer. Ned left to ready his escort. Outside, the air smelled of churned earth and distant orchards. Ravens wheeled overhead, cawing as if bearing witness to a world remade, but not yet reordered. Ned saddled Ghost and gathered a guard of Northmen and Riverland knights. As they rode northeast along the Mander, he cast one last look back. Banners still fluttered, yet the songs of victory lay oddly muted, as if the host sensed the duel's true price. Even the sun filtered through clouds like a reluctant heir to a throne of sky. They passed through villages where small folk peered from thatched doorways, eyes wide at the sight of stark direwolf and Baratheon stag side by side. Some bowed, some fled, but many simply watched, faces etched with hunger, hope, suspicion. War left scars deeper than swords. Ned dismounted often, speaking kindly, ensuring wagons of grain left behind by Tyrell levies were not seized by foragers. Each promise of relief he made, he felt settle like a coin on his soul's scales. Too many had been broken by kings these last 2 decades. At Bitterbridge they turned onto the Roserad. Flowering meadows gave way to farmland patchworked with post-harvest stubble. Word of Rhaegar's fall traveled ahead in waves. Campfire gossip one day, certainty the next. Some taverns erupted in bawdy cheers when they recognized the hand's banner. Others murmured dim prayers for the prince they remembered as gentle to singers and children. Ned listened, filing each sentiment like a maester storing scrolls. A realm could be ruled by steel, but only tended by understanding. On the 5th night they reached the Sceptry at Horsemaster's Hill, where Ned had ordered Rhaegar's body sent under guard. Lanterns glowed along whitewashed walls. Chanting drifted through open cloisters. Inside, he found Sir Barristan Selmy standing vigil before a carved whitewood bier. The old knight's silver armor glimmered in candlelight, his cloak of the king's guard spotless, though the hilt of his sword bore scratches new forged by the recent clash. Sir Barristan, Ned greeted softly. Selmy inclined his head. Lord Stark. I wondered if the hand would come. I wish to pay respects, Ned said. Whatever strife lay between our houses, Prince Rhaegar was noble. He was more, Barristan's voice quavered. Had he lived unbroken, this realm might have crowned a poet king, not a butcher's son. He caught himself. Shame flickering. Forgive me. Grief spurs sharp tongues. Ned approached the bier. Rhaegar's corpse rested on satin the color of dusk. The wound at his side had been stitched closed, though crimson seeped through the linen. His face, cleansed of blood, looked almost serene. Not the spectral pallor of death, but an alabaster calm, as if the storms that racked his life had finally spent themselves. A garland of golden roses lay across his breast, courtesy of Margaery Tyrell, the young maiden who had insisted upon honoring chivalry, even in defeat. Ned bowed his head. If the Seven grant him peace, Perhaps it will bloom into peace for the living. Barristan's hand tightened on his sword pommel. Prince Viserys lives across the sea, and Princess Daenerys. Peace may still face trials. I know, Ned admitted. Yet something changed on that field. Robert has seen what vengeance yields. If he can turn his might to healing. Can lions grow grain? Selmy asked, weary. Ned offered no false comfort. They can guard fields where others sow. Come with me to King's Landing, Barristan. Robert needs counsel untainted by ambition. I pledged my sword to the king once, Selmy murmured. I broke that pledge when he cast me aside in favor of younger blades. Yet perhaps vows like hearts can mend. He bent, brushing gloved fingers across Rhaegar's brow, then straightened. I will ride with you. When their column passed through the towering alabaster gates of the capital 3 days later, smoke from every hearth swirled into an early winter sky. King's Landing had braced for siege rumors, but the sight of the hand's tokens flying unscathed calmed the throngs thronging along muddy avenues. Ned heard muffled cheers, a few jeers, but mostly the hush of exhaustion. Inside the Red Keep, Cersei Lannister awaited in the Tower of the Hand, having claimed its chambers for her Regency Council the previous night. She wore a gown sewn from scarlet Myrish silk, each fold capturing lamplight like smoldering coals. Her golden hair wound around a delicate coronet, but the tilt of her chin declared a crown's worth. Lord Stark, she purred, lips orchid red. I trust my lord husband rides behind. King Robert convalesces, Ned said evenly. He will return when fit. She gestured toward the table strewn with parchment. His wound is dire. The realm must not languish. My father counsels assembling a provisional council to oversee treasury and justice. And where is the small council? Ned asked. Have they been dismissed? Grand Maester, Pycelle daughters, Renly dallies, and Varys slithers. Cersei's smile flickered. Failing kings breed failing councils. Ned felt the first quiver of alarm. Robert's absence widened cracks the Lannisters could slip daggers through. Sir Barristan will resume his post, he said firmly. And Sir Tywin's wisdom is welcome, but not at expense of others' voices. Wise men's voices rarely align. Cersei sighed. Yet the throne must be guarded. Rumors claim the prince's supporters remain at large. John Connington has sworn peace, Ned said. Words. She plucked a parchment. Edicts prove firmer. I have here a decree authorizing the confiscation of all Targaryen and sympathizer estates. Sign. And the gold fills the crown's vaults. Ned's jaw tightened. Confiscation of Reach Manors will inflame lords who already doubt us. We need healing, not provocation. Cersei's green eyes sparked. Healing requires excising rot. The Tyrells will bend. They sniff roses where others smell opportunity. My father's coffers will pay reparations if need be. A Lannister always pays his debts, Ned quoted, unable to mask disdain. Her smile sharpened. And collects them. Ned bowed stiffly. Until the king sits his throne again, I will not sign. She watched him depart, diamonds of malice glinting in her gaze. In the courtyard, Ned found Renly Baratheon lounging over a barrel as if it were a cushioned chair. Stark, Renly called, waving a silver tankard. Brother Robert still breathing? 7 save us. I owe him 50 dragons for outliving old Lord Grandpa Dane's gout. Robert lives, Ned replied curtly. He eyed Renly's easy grin. Unlike his elder brother, Renly wore mirth like armor. His doublet of forest green offset gold stags prancing across shoulders. We require loyalty now, not wagers. Renly stood, sobering slightly. Sir Loras rides from Highgarden with 2,000 fresh knights, if that's loyalty enough. Knights are welcome, Ned acknowledged. But council as well. The queen moves to seize lands. Renly's brows knitted. Cersei? She smells dragon blood and means to lap it up. He drained his tankard. We'll speak tonight. Small horns blow louder than big ones in echoing halls. Ned left him to his merriment, though unease stalked his thoughts. Political horns already blared, their echoes twisting paths through stone corridors. Robert's presence would still them, or perhaps break them into warring shards. Healing demanded a scalpel, not a hammer. 2 weeks passed. Robert arrived by litter, his arm bound but his temper freed. The city erupted in celebration, banners unfurled, taverns gifted barrels on the crown's coin. Yet rumor traveled alongside, that the king had hesitated at the duel's end, that the dragon prince fell only because mercy stayed his hand. Some songs turned Rhaegar martyr, others demon. Pages whispered of portents, comets sighted, wolves birthing shadows, a star bleeding in the north. Maester Pacelle sniffed, citing humors of the sky, but fear seldom heeded scholarship. Robert summoned the small council the morn after arrival. Candlelight gleamed on Tywin Lannister's balding head. He had arrived in haste, red cloaks thick as flies in the keep. Littlefinger lounged nearby, tapping quill. Varys glided silent, robes violet, perfume thick enough to mask any stench of deceit. Cersei presided at Robert's left, Ned at his right. Robert's voice boomed across the chamber. The dragon threat is ended but not forgotten. My son Joffrey will soon be of age to squire. Meanwhile, we rebuild. Lord Stark speak of the North's harvest. Ned outlined grain stores. The North had fared well. Tywin interjected about the Westerland's mines. Gold continued to flow. Renly spoke of the Stormland's fisheries. Only the Reach lacked clarity. Mace Tyrell remained at Highgarden, nursing bristled pride. Robert drummed fingers on armrest. Sir Barristan? Selmy straightened. Your Grace, I propose royal progresses. Show the people their king still rides roads. Mercy coins weigh more than coppers. Robert nodded, half-smile tugging. Mercy and beer. We go first to the Reach. Tywin's brows arched. A long journey. Perhaps dispatch envoys instead. Envoys won't drink with small folk, Robert said. They won't wrestle pig farmers, hold babes, or laugh at jests. I'll show them their king bleeds and heals. He caught Cersei's chilly stare. The queen will govern in my stead. Wise, she murmured. Robert pushed upright with effort. We ride in 3 weeks. Stark, you'll accompany. Ned inclined his head. Oh, of course. Meeting adjourned, the council filtered out. Tywin detained Ned. Lord Stark, my daughter bears burdens heavy. Assist her. She and the king must show unity. Ned studied the lord with ice-gray eyes. Unity is forged by trust, not edicts. Tywin's mouth twitched, whether in amusement or threat, Ned knew not. Trust is minted in gold, the lion said, and swept away. Preparations consumed days. Robert insisted on taking only a modest guard of 200. More men eat more hogs, he explained. Ned added Northmen scouts and a dozen smiths to repair wagons. Cersei pressed Tywin's red cloaks to accompany. Robert allowed 50. Sir Barristan led the King's Guard, white cloaks bright against mail. Before departure, Ned visited the crypt beneath the Sept of Baelor where Rhaegar's coffin rested. The door stood ajar. Inside, a cloaked figure knelt by the sarcophagus. Moonlight spilled through lattice windows, silvering the marble floor. Ned's hand went to ice hilt. Then recognition stilled him. Princess Elia Martell's younger brother, Prince Oberyn, rose, eyes like smoldering ember. Stark, he greeted, voice low as cello. Come to see if the dragon still sleeps. I came to pay respect, Ned said. Oberyn's lips curved wry. Respect or penance? I hear you held the king's dagger from finishing him. I chose mercy. Oberyn approached the coffin, tracing carved wings. Mercy is a silk ribbon tied around a blade. My sister and her children received none at Tywin's hands. Now Tywin flaps above your counsels again. He pivoted. The North calls you honorable. Tell me, is honor blind to justice? Ned met his gaze. Justice must be tempered, else it becomes vengeance. Oberyn laughed softly. Vengeance is the wine of my house. We sip it daily. He drew a sun and spear medallion from beneath cloak. I shall travel to Sunspear soon, gather voices. The South may speak louder than wolves or lions expect. Speak for peace, Ned urged. Peace. Oberyn's smile chilled. When killers prosper. He slid past, leaving the crypt cold in his wake. Ned exhaled. Threats bloomed like weeds, each with thorns unique. The realm was fertile ground for grudges. The royal progress departed on a crisp morning when frost dusted ramparts like spun sugar. Robert rode ahead, and for a stretch Ned glimpsed the youth he once followed against the Mad King. A broad-shouldered knight astride a destrier, bellowing for speed, hammer strapped across his saddle, though he could not wield it yet. The sight stirred hope and dread, for Robert's wounds ran deeper than bone. Beyond the Kingswood they traveled hills checkered by vineyards. Lords balked at first. Too many had suffered looted cellars during the War of the Usurper. But Robert won them with boisterous praise of each cask. Children flocked, dazzled by Sir Jaime's golden armor. Their mothers laughed when Robert bought whole hogs for roadside feasts. At Bitterbridge, Lady Tanda Stokeworth presented a wheel of cheese so vast 4 men bore it on a plank. Robert hacked slices and forced them on any within reach, shouting that hearts grew stout on good dairy. Ned watched, heart easing. Yet nights alone by campfire brought Robert's melancholy like tide tugging rockweed. One moonless midnight, Ned found Robert crouched by a lantern, picking at broken rubies set in a leather pouch. From the trident, Robert murmured, rolling a gem across palm lines. They say there were 14. I've gathered 9. Ned knelt. Why scour the river twice for stones? Robert's eyes glimmered, reflection of lantern flame. Each ruby reminds me what I killed for. He closed fist. But I fear the price was never paid in full. Then pay living debts, Ned said gently. Forge schools, healers' halls, roads. Robert gazed toward the dark rise of a hill. Roads, he echoed, voice hoarse. Rhaegar dreamed of roads linking all realms, Dorne to Skagos, Tyrosh to Storm's End. He spoke to me once, at Harrenhal's tourney banquet. Said songs of love meant little without paths for men to meet. A rueful chuckle. I wanted only Lyanna's hand that night, and ale. I thought him a moon-mad minstrel. He tucked rubies away. Maybe he was a king in truth. Ned laid a hand on his shoulder. Be the king he would have been. Strong, just, merciful. Robert's shoulders sagged. Mercy broke him. It saves you, Ned whispered. Robert's eyes glistened. He nodded once, then clambered stiffly to his tent. From that night, Ned noticed shifts. Robert rose earlier, oversaw quartermaster lists, ordered reduced tariffs on grain entering King's Landing. He appointed healers to accompany progress and treat small folk free. In Maidenpool, he commuted a poacher's death to service in City Watch, citing Mercy's virtue. Bards fashioned verses within weeks. The Boar King had grown a heart of gold. Cersei's courtiers scoffed, but city gossip warmed. At Old Town, the Hightower's bells tolled welcome. Archmaester Valar studied Robert's cracked bones, pronouncing them nearly knit. Robert touched stained glass windows in the starry sept, and swore to rebuild burnt septs across crown lands. He poured wine for humble septons. Once he would have demanded they pour for him. Ned observed, silently measuring. Yet peace seldom walks unshadowed. On the eve of departure, Renly burst into the hand's tent. Rain lashed canvas. Lamplight shivered. Renly's cheeks flushed. Good news? Ned asked. A letter from King's Landing. Renly sputtered. But not good. He thrust parchment. Ned scanned lines. Cersei had convened a regency committee regardless, citing the king's distance as abdication of immediate governance. She enacted Tywin's confiscation edict. Gold Cloak seized estates of houses rumored to aid Rhaegar, including Caron, Florent, even Tarth. Lords protested. Sellswords harried roads. Bread rioted in Flea Bottom. Renly paced. We ride with healers, giving out copper stars, while back home lions sharpen claws. Ned's pulse quickened. Robert must know. Robert read the letter at dawn. Rage thundered into action. She dares rule in my absence. His voice snapped tree limbs. We march now. Spare horses be damned. Sir Barristan counseled caution, the king's arm still fragile. Robert silenced him with glare. By noon, the progress tore along the Roserwad like a summer tempest. But storms gather faster still. Halfway to King's Landing they encountered refugees, women bearing bundles, men dragging wounded cousins. Gold cloaks, they cried. Burned our granaries, said we harbored traitors. Robert's face purpled. He ordered maesters to tend the injured, knights to escort farmers home, and spurred ahead with triple guard. 4 days later, spires of the city pierced rainfall. Smoke coiled above rooftops, too dark for cookfire. The gates lay barred. Gold cloaks manned merlons. When the king's banners unfurled, horns blared, portcullis groaned. Robert rode through streets lined with silent citizens. Ash drifted from charred tenements near the Hill of Rainies. At the Red Keep, Cersei stood at top of Serpentine Stair, Lannister crimson, affronting gloom. Behind her, Sir Gregor Clegane loomed in enameled plates like a brute carved from midnight. Tywin waited in the shadows. Robert dismounted, pain flickering across features as weight jolted healing bones. He advanced, voice low, but edged like drawn steel. Ain, dot. Cersei inclined head. The city wavered. Riders chanted for dragons. I quelled unrest swiftly. By arson. Robert thundered. By example. She glided down steps. Fear guards hearts when love falters. Robert's chest heaved. Love rises when kings show it first. She reached him, laid manicured hand on sling strap. Robert, she murmured. Our marriage forged peace once. Let us wield power together. He stared despairing, as if seeing stranger. Together, you undermine me with every breath. Because breath is all a woman may wield in a world of swords. She hissed, mask slipping. But I will not bow. I will rule or none shall. Robert's fingers twitched near Warhammer, arm twinge reminder. Ned stepped aside. Your Grace, he addressed Cersei, the king commands the realm. Reskind these decrees. Make recompense, show mercy. Cersei's eyes narrowed. Mercy. Her sneer looked carved from marble. Mercy killed dragons. Mercy crowns wolves. She turned, ascending. I will reskind nothing. Tywin's voice, cavern deep, echoed from columns. Daughter. She halted. Tywin emerged, cloak swirling crimson. Enough. His gaze speared her. Your actions endanger Lannister interests. You misjudge the tide. She faltered. Father. I? Silence. He faced Robert. Your Grace. The lion sought to protect crown and daughter. But a lion who overreaches risks teeth. I will rectify losses. Gold and grain shall flow south tomorrow. The edicts will be revoked. Robert's jaw flexed. And the small folk burned. Tywin bowed fractionally. Rebuilding funds shall accompany grain. Consider it restitution. Cersei stared aghast. You would bend. I would survive, Tywin replied. Your mercy, Robert, may yet salvage us all. Robert exhaled. The tension in hall slackened. Even Sir Gregor lowered head in confusion. Robert raised good arm. So be it. My queen returns to chambers. Lord Tywin will oversee redress. Lord Stark Reen's hand. Cersei's cheeks blazed. She swept past, gown snapping like whip. Tywin watched her go, expression unreadable. After council dismissed, Ned joined Robert on balcony overlooking Blackwater Rush. Winds carried tang of peat smoke and wet stone. She will hate you more, Ned warned. Robert stared into dark waters. I do not live for her love. I live for the realm. He rubbed sling. The hammer sleeps, Ned. Let words forge paths now. That path is treacherous, Ned said. Robert nodded. Yet even hammers may learn gentle touch, else kingdoms crack. Below, torches along city walls flickered. Watchers shifted. Ned felt tide of fate swirl but sensed a subtle change, a current of possible hope. Rhaegar's death had not healed the world, yet perhaps it had scarred it into remembering what wounds cost. Winter bled southward by slow degrees. Grain caravans rolled from Highgarden to King's Landing under banners of both Rose and Stag. Maesters in Ravensport tallied fewer deaths from flux that season, crediting healer halls founded along progress route by God. Septons preached of mercy, quoting passages newly favored by the king. Merchants grumbled at lowered import levies yet praised improved roads patrolled by mixed guards, Northmen, Reachmen, Stormlords. Tywin funded granaries to quiet unrest. Some said he softened, others said he calculated profit from stability. Cersei remained behind veils, but her influence lapsed while Robert and small council labored. Ned wrote letters nightly, quill-scratching news to Winterfell. Robb's lessons, Arya's mischief, Bran's climbing feats. He longed for crisp northern air, but duty bound him south until Robert's reforms took root. On the first day of the new year, a snowflake drifted onto Ned's parchment, impossible in balmy capital. It melted, leaving faint, star-shaped stain. Ned stared. Outside, no snow fell. He stepped to balcony. Clear sky, half moon, yet a chill curled about his spine, as though winter whispered across leagues. A raven croaked from rookery turret. Ned recalled old Nan's tales. When snow falls at dawn of year's birth far from winter's realm, it is no weather but omen. He returned inside. Sealing letter. In the throne room dawn after, the king held audience. Lords filed petitions, small folk complaints. A hedge knight sought charters for orphans. Robert granted them. A Dornish envoy delivered a sealed pact from Prince Doran Martell, pledging non-aggression in exchange for apology and indemnity for Elia's blood. Robert hesitated, then signed, offering gold for Sunspear scholars. Ned glimpsed tears glinting in the envoy's eyes. Yet as session closed, Varys approached, silk slippers whispering over marble. Grave tidings flit on shadowed wings, your grace. The spider intoned. Queen Daenerys Stormborn has wed Khal Drogo, warlord across the narrow sea. Viserys seeks a crown of gold for dragons. And Braavosian whispers claim the Golden Company contracts anew. Venno. Robert's knuckles whitened on throne armrest. Silence rippled. War follows dragons, he muttered. Ned stepped forward. We rebuild. We do not chase phantoms. Robert studied him. I cannot fight every dragon threat on foreign shore. But I can build a realm so strong dragons break against it like waves on rock. Ned nodded. Then build, my king. Brick by brick, law by law. Robert's gaze drifted towards stained glass window depicting Aegon's Landing. Light spilled ruby red across floor. He flexed mended arm. The hammer rests, he said. But rock is forged beneath weight. Let us forge. Years later, minstrels would argue when peace truly returned to Westeros. The day Rhaegar's body lay entombed, or the day Robert signed the Martell Accord. Scholars would note wheat yields rising, orphanages funded, guild charters reformed. Children born in that era grew calling it the Black Stag's Peace. They learned of two kings who met in grass and bled away old hatreds. They learned that mercy, once mocked, became cornerstone of the crown. In Old Town, archmaesters debated whether a single duel could pivot destiny. In Braavos, John Connington and the Golden Company trained in bitter exile. But rumor claimed gold flowed from Westeros now, investing merchants they once might have raided. Across the Dothraki Sea, a silver-haired queen dreamed of home, but every raven returning spoke of harvests, not chaos. And in Winterfell's Godswood, under ancient weirwood's watchful blood-red leaves, a gray direwolf pup licked the frost off Ned Stark's glove as he knelt in quiet prayer. Snow drifted gentle then, real and tangible, swirling around father and pup alike. Ned lifted eyes to branches creaking in evening hush. Somewhere far away steel hammered steel, but in his heart he felt new roads stretching, as if the realm itself inhaled a breath long held. The future would bring trials. The wheel never ceased turning. But for one flicker of seasons, Westeros tasted the sweetness of wounds forgiven. 2 graves on Barrow in the Reach lay veiled by tall grass and starflowers. Travelers still felt hush there, yet children chasing fireflies discovered another oddity. Amidst moss and loam, 9 rubies lay half-buried, catching moonlight in secret sparkle. No one ever moved them. They seemed to belong. Red tears marking ground where fury ended, and something like grace took root. And in the Red Keep solar, King Robert sometimes touched his arm, feeling the faint ache where bone once splintered. He would gaze upon a map strewn with pins, new roads traced like veins of living stone. He would remember a silver-haired prince pausing in mercy, and he would whisper a vow he strove each dawn to keep, that the hammer would lift only to build, never to break, while the realm drew breath enough to hope. The first true blizzard of the winter swept across the neck at dusk, its flurries riding a scream of wind that rattled shutters from Torrhen Square all the way south to Moat Cailin. 3 dozen ravens fled before it, but one black-feathered scout dared the gale, beating northward until pale feathers of ice clotted its wings. It landed, half-frozen, upon the ramparts of Winterfell at first light. By then, the snow lay hip-deep beneath the battlements, and the world seemed remade in white silence. Ned Stark broke the seal with numb fingers. The wax was crimson, stamped by the crowned stag. He read once, then twice, while frost stiffened the fur at his collar. Word of the king's health came in spare, unadorned sentences. Robert coughed blood nightly now. The maesters claimed it a lingering infection of the ribs, and the pain in his arm had spread to a fever that would not break. Behind those facts, Ned heard another truth, the weight of unfinished duties settling like ice upon a river that dared not crack. In the Ravenry's torchlit gloom he wrote his reply, a promise to ride with all haste once the storm's back was broken, a reminder that the North had sent steel, grain, and timber already, and a solemn oath that should Robert falter, the hand would bear his will to any corner of the realm. Then he watched the bird vanish, a blot of ink against the whitening sky, and wondered why dread felt colder than any wind. Far to the south, in a chamber of the Tower of the Hand, now given over to linen bandages and vials of dream wine, Robert Baratheon dreamed of dragons. They circled above the Red Keep in rings of smoke and broken bone. A child's laughter echoed somewhere, high, distant, taunting. He reached for his hammer but found only a quill. Rubies spilled from its nib, staining the parchment beneath until every word he tried to write drowned in red. He woke choking on the scent of blood. The maester wiped his beard, muttering about ghost pains and recommended leeches. Robert roared at him to be gone. When the door thumped shut, the king slumped against pillows that smelled faintly of pine and must. Outside his window the black water shone with morning sun, yet he felt himself sinking through years, as though each day were another layer of armor he no longer had the strength to shed. Cersei visited at midday, dressed in wildfire-green silk that caught the lamplight like living flame. Jaime trailed her at a polite distance, eyes wary. She pressed a cool hand to Robert's brow, asked if he'd eaten. He grunted that he'd downed a bucket of oats like a prize stallion. She smiled without warmth. "We must discuss the succession," she said, voice too soft. "I'm not dead." Robert's good hand, still swollen, still aching, tightened on the coverlet. "Yet the realm whispers." She went on. "If you wish to name Joffrey Prince of Dragonstone, the Lords Declarant will sign tomorrow. Delay, and they will wonder what we hide." He stared at her, thinking how mercy had cost Rhaegar his life, yet he'd not taken that lesson to heart. Cersei's beauty had once dazzled him like polished steel. Now it seemed a mask too bright for the face beneath. "Why the haste?" "Because others show haste," she said. "Renly courts Highgarden with tales of your failing strength. Stannis builds ships in the shadows of Storm's End. And the Dornish, well, the viper's tongue never sleeps." Robert laughed, a harsh bark. And is Tywin's tail not twitching with equal hunger? Jaime's hand drifted toward his sword hilt. Cersei's lashes lowered. Father only seeks to protect the crown. The crown, Robert murmured. Not the king. He sighed, feeling every rib pulse with molten fire. I'll sign nothing until Ned Stark stands beside me. Tell him I command it. Cersei's smile cooled further. Winter storms delay every bird. Then hitch one to a dragon, if you must, Robert snarled. The North will heed my call when others scheme. Now leave me. Jaime pulled his sister away before words sharpened further, but Robert heard her slippers whisper across the rugs like retreating vipers. Alone, he drew the tattered pouch of rubies from beneath his pillow and spilled 5 onto his palm. They glimmered darkly, the only embers he seemed able to kindle. Come fast, Ned, he muttered to the stones. I've bled the realm for these. Don't let them be pointless. Across the narrow sea, John Connington lingered on the rain-slick quays of the Braavosi harbor and stared at ships bound west. The wind tasted of salt and frost, a herald of winter even this far from the wall. Beneath a gray pennant, emblazoned with a skull and a golden crown, homeless Harry Strickland approached, boots creaking. The men grow restless, the captain general said. They train to conquer, not to wait. Connington's cloak snapped. Waiting wins wars the impatient bleed away. The impatient also seize thrones while cautious men polish swords. Strickland's eyes drifted to the ship's name. Black Justice. Painted in flaking letters. If you mean to sail, sail. If not, disband us. Lightning spidered across distant clouds. Connington gripped the rail till knuckles blanched. The prince's dying wish bound me to mercy. I granted it. Yet mercy buys naught if lions devour the cub. Cub? Strickland echoed. Connington turned. You trained young Griff for years. He's ready. Strickland's face twitched. Ready to claim a kingdom, or ready to die chasing it? Ash and rumors fill Westeros. Robert festers, Tywin grasps, the queen plays wildfire beneath her bed. When the stag falls, the realm will crave a dragon again, one untainted by madness. He unrolled a damp chart, tapping a starred island south of Lys. We sail here first. There are friends beneath the palm trees, men who kept the faith. They'll hide us till the right storm cracks open the mainland. Strickland folded the map. Very well. But the sellsword who fights for dreams, fights on empty purse. Have coin ready. No. Connington's gaze hardened. When Griff sets foot on Westerosi soil, hell walk over fields sown with gold. The realm will pay to mend itself. Will collect in full? Winterfell's cloud-drowned towers shrank behind Ned as he urged his column south. Robb and Jon Snow rode flanking him, gray and black cloaks whipping over shaggy shoulders. They'd insisted on accompanying their father to see the realm beyond the neck, 2 wolves on the cusp of manhood, eager to test tooth against storm. Ned feared what storms awaited. On the 3rd night beyond Greywater Watch, as they made camp under a half-crumbled watchtower, a hooded figure stepped from shadow. Arya slipped back her cowl, face smudged with travel soot, eyes bright with mischief and worry. You must take me, she demanded. Sansa's gone south twice. I've never once. Ned's heart lurched. You stole a horse? She let me borrow her, Arya corrected, patting the mare, skinny, determined, already half in love with the girl who rode her. I can help. I can shoot, and I can listen where guards cannot. Jon hid a grin. Robb sighed wearily. Ned stared at the tower's jagged silhouette, remembering Lyanna. Winter's breath drifted around them, smelling of iron. You'll ride in the baggage train, he said at last. And you'll obey every order from Jory Castle or be on the next ship home. Arya's grin split the dark. Ships and I do not agree, father. Horses are kinder. At White Harbor, Lord Wyman Manderly hosted them with eels, baked in butter, and tales of far-traveled mummers, whispering that King Robert had already died. Ned stood, cup thudding to the board. These tongues will be silenced, he warned, lest I cut them out myself. The hall stilled. Robb reached for his sword belt, Jon bristled. Arya's knife vanished up her sleeve. Wyman lifted both hands, chins wobbling. I repeat only rumor, my lord. Peace. Peace. The White Harbor hears many sails and many lies. Ned sat slowly. Too many lies grow root in winter's soil. He drank deep, wondering whether truth fared any better. King's Landing awoke one dawn to horns screaming from Gate of the Gods. Tywin Lannister had returned, not in triumph, but in iron-shod urgency. 3,000 Lannister spearmen, the mountain in black armor, and a gilt wagon bearing iron-bound chests. In the throne room he knelt, though only long enough to present those chests to the crown. 2 million gold dragons, Tywin declared. Have to feed your city, have to fortify your fleets. May it quiet tongues who call the lion miser. Robert croaked gratitude. Cersei's gaze smoldered, for she knew such spectacle served her father more than crown. And Varys, gliding near, smelled war gilded beneath generosity. Gold served sharper blades than steel. By noon the city crier read new proclamations. Grain wagons taxed at half tithe, the Duskendale Road paved at the Lion's expense, and an amnesty for any knight who had raised dragon banners, but would kneel by year's end. The streets buzzed with cautious hope. But in the smoky tavern under the Street of Looms, a sellsword named Derry drank sour red, and mused to companions that lions offered bread only when they'd already bought the baker. 3 stools down, Ron listened. He filed the rumor for later purchase, for rumor was the only coin that doubled overnight. Ned's party reached the ruined inn at the crossroads, as dusk painted the world bruised violet. Snow-dusted grass whispered under hoof, and smoke coiled from the chimney, though no hostler had lived there since the trident ran red. Inside, they found a cloaked crone tending a single kettle of onion stew. Arya darted to help with bowls. The crone thanked her in an accent thick with Stormland's mud. When Arya returned to the fire pit, her eyes were wide. She says knights in golden armor chased a bard through these woods yesterday, a bard wearing a half-mask of rubies. Ned's spoon paused. The stew tasted suddenly of ash. Did they catch him? She would not say. Arya's voice softened. She said the river takes what men cannot. That night Ned dreamed of a silver-haired prince walking along the Trident's icy bank, head bowed. Each step he took, rubies surfaced through sludge, glinting accusingly in moonlight. Ned tried to warn him, but frost choked his words. When he woke, the crone was gone, the pot emptied, and a single ruby lay in its place, still wet. They crossed the green fork under banners, snapping frozen, and at last the plain broadened into muddy leagues prowled by riverlord patrols wearing the trout of Tully. Sir Edmure greeted Ned with bearish enthusiasm, but grief shadowed his face. His father's cough had worsened. The old Lord Hoster lingered on the edge of some silent ford. But Edmure's tone brightened at rumor that the Stark party brought young blood eager for pagehood. A field of tourneys would blossom come spring, and River Run needed hardy lads to bolster depleted lists. Robb warmed to the notion. Jon, bastard though he was, watched from distance. Arya tried every blade drill shown, sparring against squires twice her age, until only darkness broke practice. Ned felt pride and fear mingle like 2 rivers meeting. Children raced toward destinies as men trudged back from them bearing scars no tale would list. With winter closing its jaws around the neck, it was early frost when Ned's column reached the Red Mountains. From each ridge ravens took flight, wild, untrained, that mirrored the crows of rumor. Lords along the King's Road spoke of Dornish banners massing at the Prince's Pass, of Renly wed to Margaery and crowned by his knights at Storm's End, of Stannis forging a fiery heart banner seen even by sailors off Dragonstone. Each tale gnawed, but none so deep as the sealed raven that met them 2 leagues north of King's Landing. It bore the mark of Grand Maester Pycelle and stank of scented oils covering panic. Robert Baratheon was dying. The letter explained in quavering script. Lungs filling with fluid, fevers spiking past Poppy's reach, breathing rasping like a saw in cedar. Pycelle begged the hand to hasten. Already the queen prepared the succession documents. Robb's knuckles whitened on the hilt of his sword. Jon exhaled a ghost of breath. Arya's voice cracked, asking if the king would be buried in winter snow. Ned stared at the smoky horizon ahead, where the capital's hilltops jabbed the sky like black spears. He thought of Robert laughing with hog juice dripping from beard, Robert bleeding rubies into the grass, Robert swearing the hammer would build not break. "Ride," he told Jory. "No more camps. We reach the city by dawn tomorrow." The horses galloped till stars blurred overhead. Ned's thoughts galloped faster. If Robert named Joffrey heir, the goddess of mercy might yet cradle the realm, or crush it beneath false crowns fashioned in secret beds. They entered King's Landing at first gray hint of day, hooves clattering on cobbles glazed with frost. Few stirred, though a silent queue of old women with chipped bowls already clustered at the Baylor steps, waiting for the alms Caitlyn's charity funds now paid. Ned dismounted outside Maegor's holdfast, cloak stiff with ice, beard rimed white. The gold cloaks parted for him uneasily. Word of winter wolves south of the neck always set tongues rattling in hot climate. Inside, torches smoked against banners drooping with damp. Pycelle met them, wringing hands. "The king sleeps but lightly. The queen. Where is she?" Ned demanded. "Gone to the sept, my lord. To pray." "Then? For whose salvation?" Ned's boots echoed up the stair. He paused only long enough to tell Robb and Jon to find warm beds, Arya to remain with Septa Mordain. Then he entered Robert's chamber. The smell struck first, sickness thick and sour, clinging to everything. Robert lay surrounded by pillows, skin the color of old parchment, beard threaded with silver. When his eyes cracked open, they held a glint that was almost the old storm blue fire. "Ned." The word wheezed. "Just in time to drink my wine." Ned knelt, grasped the king's uninjured hand. "By the gods, Robert." "No gods," Robert rasped. "Only men who think themselves such. Listen." He coughed, flame-flecked with red spattered linen. "I leave you a kingdom balanced on the point of a spear. Keep it upright." "You'll hold it yet," Ned said. But the lie tasted of bitter root. Robert's gaze drifted. "The boy must rule." Ned braced. "Which boy?" Robert's mouth twitched. "The one whose father I should have been. My bastards are flowers in gutters. Joffrey, for all his prancing, bears my crown by law. Sign the writ, Ned. Guide him." Ned closed his eyes. He thought of Stannis's grim sense of justice, of Renly's easy smiles hiding hunger, of whispers that none of Cersei's children carried a drop of Baratheon black. But he also remembered Rhaegar's last words: "The king who rises must rise for the people." When he opened his eyes, Robert had drifted into half-consciousness. Ned dipped quill. He wrote not the name Joffrey but 4 words only: "The throne to pass." He left the rest blank. Robert's thumb pressed the seal beside Ned's. "Fill it," Robert murmured. "I will," said Ned. And he meant it, though he did not yet know with what name. The queen swept into the corridor as Ned left the chamber, her green eyes fixed on the rolled parchment in his fist. "Is it done?" "It is begun," Ned answered. Behind her, Jaime leaned lazy against a pillar. His golden armor gleamed faint sunrise. He looked Ned over, smiled as if sharing a joke only Kingslayers understood. "Word travels," Jaime said. "Renly rides north with Tyrell banners. Stannis sails west with fiery hearts, and the Dornish stalk the pass. Shall we flip a coin?" Ned held his gaze. "Coins spin on edges before they choose. Let us pray they do not land on steel," Jaime mused, pushing off the pillar. "Or perhaps let us pray they do." Cersei seized Ned's arm. "The writ belongs to me." "The writ belongs to the realm," Ned replied, prying her fingers free. "And I will see it honored." "By naming whom?" she hissed. He said nothing. She read his eyes and paled just enough to show the mask slipping. Jaime's hand drifted again to hilt. Footsteps thundered. Renly burst from a side hall, cheeks flushed with wind of haste. "Stark." "My lords." "The king's grace fails." He gasps for air. "Now." All turned back, but Robert was already gone by the time they reached the bedside. One last breath, more sigh than roar, and the storm ended. Outside, the sun finally cleared the horizon, gilding the red keep in pale fire. A silence spread that felt like the pause between the draw and the blow of a headsman's sword. At dusk, the bells tolled. Small folk whispered of the stag who chose winter to die, the loneliest season. Street singers wept into stonework alleys. Dock workers paused their ropes. Yet beneath the grief, a current swelled, unseen. Cells words counting blades, priests reading comets, little birds flitting to Varys with secrets that smelled of wildfire and blood. In the solar of the Tower of the Hand, Ned unfurled Robert's final writ across the table where ancient kings had plotted wars. He stared at the blank space after "to pass," and dipped the quill again. Maester Lomas' voice returned to him. Mercy broke Rhaegar. And Robert's own. Build roads, not graves. He scrawled a name that felt both burden and hope, then sanded the ink. Footsteps tapped behind. Sir Barristan entered, cloak shining moon-white under candle. Lord Stark, is it true? Yes. Then the realm turns. Let it turn true this once, Ned said, handing him the parchment. Barristan read, surprise flickering, then bowed. Honor may yet outlive us all. In the courtyard below, lords gathered with torches flaring. The hand of the king descended the spiral stair, parchment held as if it might burst into flame. Cersei waited at the landing, Jaime at her side, Tywin's face unreadable behind ice-blue candlelight. Renly watched, hawkish. Stannis absent, already half-legend across the bay. Ned lifted the writ. King Robert's final command ordained the crown shall pass. Words rang, echoing off distant columns. To Prince Gendry Waters, legitimized Baratheon. Gasps, curses, stunned silence. Somewhere a torch sputtered. And until the prince reach majority, Ned continued, the realm shall be governed by a council of regents representing each great house, bound by oath before gods and men to protect the people. Any who contest this lawful command stand traitor to the crown and to Robert's final breath. Chaos erupted. Jaime's sword hissed free. Tywin's eyes glittered like wet obsidian. Renly's hand flew to his heart. Shock or calculation? While across the courtyard, Davos Seaworth stepped into Torchglow, having arrived with news of Stannis' fleet. Brienne of Tarth shouldered through nights to reach Renly. The mountains growl rumbled. Yet before blades crossed, a winter wind blew through the gate arch, flinging torches sideways and scattering sparks across stone. Snowflakes drifted into the courtyard, impossible snow from a cloudless sky. They melted on steel and silk alike, hissing tiny deaths. Ned felt the old gods stirring, whispers threading heartwood roots beneath every step. Mercy, they sighed. Justice. Balance. Dot. In that suspended breath of storm and silence, John Connington's fleet slipped unseen into the Blackwater mouth. Golden skull flags hidden beneath black tarps. Beyond the city walls, Oberyn Martell's spear banners spread like sunrise across the King's Road. And on the distant Dothraki Sea, a slender queen exhaled fire for the first time, her newborn dragons shrieking at stars. The wheel had paused, but now it would spin anew, sharp with frost-edged spokes, greased by blood, driven by men and women who believed destiny owed them music. The realm, like the great Starks of ancient tale, would have to choose, break beneath the storm, or learn to walk on water frozen into mirrors that showed every soul the cost of its reflection. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, no one moved, though the courtyard flickered with torchlight and half-drawn steel. A single snowflake drifted between Sir Jaime Lannister's golden helm and Arya Stark's, dark eyes before melting in the hush. Someone in the back of the crowd, a hedge knight from Old Oak, coughed, and the sound cracked the trance like a thrown stone shattering pond ice. Then at once the shouts began. Traitor! Cersei's voice cut first, high and sharp. Seize him, seize the hand. Gold Cloaks hesitated, glancing from the Queen to Lord Tywin, from Tywin to Sir Barristan Selmy, who still clutched the writ bearing Robert Baratheon's seal. Selmy's white cloak rippled in the stray winter gust, but his sword remained sheathed, the point of honor holding hesitation at bay. Ned Stark raised a steady hand. Any man who sets steel upon me, or mine breaks the king's dying command." His voice carried, cold and deliberate. "Gendry Baratheon will be crowned upon his 14th birthday. Until then the Regency Council, named of every great house, shall govern. That is the lawful decree. I will not repeat it." Jaime's sword rasped fully free. "Lawful decrees," he sneered, "need more than ink if they're to survive steel. Hand, you gamble with boys and bastards while armies muster at every gate." "Damn." Robb Stark stepped to his father's side, longsword naked and glittering. Jon Snow mirrored him at the other flank, cloak of black and gray streaming behind. Around them Riverland and Northern men closed ranks. The mountain advanced a ponderous step, but halted when Barristan planted gloved palm on his breastplate, meeting the giant's visor with quiet defiance. Tywin Lannister's eyes traveled the tableau, calculating. He flicked 2 fingers. Jaime, seeing, kept his blade raised, but did not close. The Lion Lord cleared his throat. "We stand before Robert's corpse, not yet an hour cold, and already the realm phrase. Lower your swords, all of you. The boy, Gendry, must be fetched. We shall verify his blood, seat him beside the Iron Throne, and there debate regency terms. Anything less invites civil ruin." Cersei rounded on her father. "You would kneel to a gutter blacksmith's son? He may carry Robert's seed, but no proof." "Proof lies in face and marrow," Tywin murmured. "In the line of the jaw, the cast of the eyes. And if doubt lingers, Maester Pycelle's ravens fly north to record books kept at Storm's End. I will not spill blood tonight. Nenda Wyneu." The queen's lips thinned. Jaime's blade wavered, then dipped point first. Barristan exhaled. Ned signaled his guard to ease weapons, though none sheathed fully. Arya still clutched her dirk, eyes glittering, but Jon laid a calming hand on her shoulder. She begrudged the gesture yet let the blade lower. Thus fragile peace resumed. But honor, once nicked, rusts quick. While guards escorted the royal corpse to the sept for vigil, 4 factions splintered inside Maegor's holdfast like ribs cracking under too much breath. Lannister courtiers whispered in velvet alcoves. Stark men paced the towers. Renly's Tyrell retinue fortified their apartments above the maiden vault, and Littlefingers slid between them, a smile as thin as parchment and twice as combustible. All night Ned and Barristan drafted charters for a council. Tywin for the Westerlands, Renly for the Stormlands. Doran Martell's emissary promised for Dorne. Edmure Tully represented the rivers, Robb for the north. Though Ned argued to name himself until Robb came of age, and Lord Maester Pycelle in seat for the Citadel. When dawn paled the high windows, they sealed 8 copies. None slept. Outside bells tolled for Robert anew, but their lament mingled with hammer clang and trumpet calls, war drums disguised as mourning. Robb found Ned at sunrise watching ravens burst from the rookery in a ragged storm of black. "Father," he said, "Lord Renly wants audience. He offers 1,000 knights to guard young Gendry's crown. Yet he whispers of marriage between himself and Lady Marguerite sooner than spring and asks our backing. Do we trust him?" "We trust no one," Ned answered. "But we parley with all." He squeezed his son's shoulder. "Remember, our strength lies not in the number of swords, but in the weight of our word. Keep it iron." Robb nodded, though anxiety shadowed his blue-gray eyes. He was nearly a man, yet still young enough to feel the chill of politics cut deeper than any winter wind. They crossed the yard toward the Tower of the Hand when a scout galloped through the mud-clogged gate shrieking that sails, black as prophecy, crowded the bay. Ned and Barristan reached the parapet, just as horns sounded from the river. Barges rode upriver under false merchant flags, then unfurled banners. A crowned skull over crossed spears, the Golden Company, and beneath it a smaller standard, scarlet griffin on white, Sir John Connington's heraldry. Within an hour the sellsword host disgorged in disciplined columns beyond the mudgate. No pillage, no torch, merely silent ranks marching toward the gate of the gods. City guards panicked. Tywin's red cloaks mustered. The first skirmishes sparked by miscommunication, an arrow loosed, a spear thrust, each mistake echoing. By midday corpses littered the cobbles of Flea Bottom, their blood steaming in brittle winter sun. Ned convened council in the throne room. Tywin wore hairline cracks of fury but nodded to the hand. Renly lounged with forced ease. Varys fluttered in, breathless. Claiming ravens spoke of Connington bearing a claimant. Griff, they call him. The rumor says Rhaegar's lost son lives. Cersei laughed brittle. Another dragon whelp. Let them queue. We'll set crowns of tin upon their heads and send them west to amuse Greyjoys. Yet Tywin's gaze sharpened. If Connington holds the lad many once named Aegon Targaryen, half the Stormlords mourning Robert may kneel anew. Dragons, even fledglings, draw songs. Ned cleared his throat. Connington swore peace. He broke that vow. We meet him outside city walls before more small folk die. Robb, you ride with me. Lord Renly, muster knights at the king's gate. Lord Tywin, hold the Red Keep with half your strength. Then chew. And if I refuse? Tywin's voice could have cut glass. Then you declare yourself foe to the crown you claim to protect. Ned met the lion's gaze until finally Tywin inclined his head a hair's breadth. Acquiescence disguised as courtesy. They rode that afternoon through crowds hissing at uniforms whose colors changed by alley. Robb's dire wolf sigil sent ripples. Some called blessings upon winter gods for coming south. Others spat, muttering that no northern wolf could smell southern rot. Arya slipped from her guard and perched behind Ned's saddle, determined, silent. Outside the city's outer pikes they found Jon Connington arrayed in neat lines. 5,000 sellswords, banners crisp, armor mismatched yet maintained. At the host's core, a boy of 14 sat a grey palfrey. He wore dark blue brigandine, no dragon sigil save a small pin, 3-headed crimson worm, crowned by a circle of 7 tiny rubies. Connington rode forward alone. Wind tugged auburn hair streaked silver. Lord Stark, he hailed, ignoring Tyrell knights fanning out. I come under a flag of truce. Truce breaks when sellswords march, Ned replied. Reign steady. Why breach the hand's peace? Connington's jaw flexed. Peace built on bastards and backroom quills? Rhaegar's heir lives. Aegon of House Targaryen, 6th of his name. My vows to mercy ended when Robert's died. Robb spurred half a length. Robert spared your prince once already by that mercy. Now you repay with blades. Now. Mercy is for the realm, Connington answered. Not for kings who squander it. Yet blood need not spill. Allow the boy to enter. Let the lords judge which claim stands higher. Ned's thoughts raced. Gendry, still unaware of destiny, banged iron in the street of steel this very moment. Aegon, if true, bore royal blood but no memory of Westeros. The small council would fracture. War lines already drawn would fracture again. He spoke slowly. We will escort your prince to the Red Keep, unarmed. He shall present himself before the Regency Council. If the gods deem him rightful, the realm will choose. Men now. Connington hesitated, glancing at the boy. Finally he nodded. 8 dawn. The parley ended. Both parties withdrew. As Ned turned his horse, Arya's whisper reached him. Father, dragons never share thrones. He pondered those words deep into the night while cold crept under his cloak and memory of Rhaegar's mercy pulsed like a wound reopened. In the pre-dawn hush, Ned stood upon the balcony outside the Hand's solar, watching firepots sparkle along the outer walls. Robb approached, face lined with strain. Gendry's been fetched, he reported. He thought it jest until he saw the gold cloaks. Does he still swing hammers? Ned asked. Aye. His hands shake with fear, yet his eyes burn with stubborn fire. Good. Ned exhaled a plume of steam. Steel-forged honest may yet temper crowns of deceit. He briefly smiled at his son's bafflement, then strode inside. When first pale gold seeped through the high windows of the throne room, 2 boys stood before the Iron Throne. On the left, Gendry Baratheon, broad-shouldered for 13, black hair shaggy, eyes Baratheon blue deed-eyed white. On the right, Aegon, Griff, slim, violet-eyed, carrying poise beyond years. Between them Barristan Selmy held Robert's warhammer in gloved hands, its head polished of blood, but still dented from its final duel. Lord circled in a half-ring, Tywin in crimson, Renly in storm green, Edmure in trout blue, Prince Oberyn newly arrived wearing sun and spear yellow, and Lord Roose Bolton for the north. Robb withdrew to stand by his father. In galleries above, small folk pressed shoulders, breaths held. Ned ascended 3 steps, parchment unfurled. By command of King Robert Baratheon's final sealed decree, witnessed by Sir Barristan Selmy, Grand Maester Pycelle, and Lord Eddard Stark, the throne shall pass to Gendry Baratheon, born of Robert's blood, upon his 14th name day. Until such time a council of regents shall rule. Murmurs rose, quickly hushed. Ned continued, Yet a new claimant has been presented, Aegon Targaryen. In light of this, the council agrees that the High Septon shall call conclave in 7 days. Each claimant shall present proof and pledges. The realm will decide under God's eyes, not swords. Them? Cersei's laugh rang brittle. You postpone war by a fortnight, Stark, naught else. Tywin turned slowly toward her. Sometimes a fortnight saves 10,000 corpses, daughter. Silence. Renly bowed his head to Gendry. Brother's blood or no, he bears Robert's eyes. I will not spill that blood. Stannis Envoy. Stern Sir Davos stepped forward. My lord Stannis claims by birthright elder to Renly, yet sees the council's good faith. He will attend upon the conclave. Oberyn Martell's voice lilted soft menace. Dorne remembers a princess and 2 children dashed against walls. We will judge these boys not by father's sins, but by their promises to Sunspear. 7 days. It felt both instant and eternity. The city braced as though on floodgate verge. Sellswords drained taverns for coin. Septons dusted statues for miracle, and spies wove rumor thicker than snow across rooftops. Among the small folk, the boys themselves stirred hearts. Gendry visited the Street of Steel, handing out bread he bought with new royal stipend, sweating beside his former master as they hammered spearheads for city watch. Aegon walked the Rookery Tower with maesters, speaking of roads and aqueducts he'd seen in Bravos, promising to bring such craft to Westeros. Where he walked, ragged children followed, awed by his silver hair. Arya stalked them both, unseen, and reported nightly to Jon and Robb. The dragon boy talks sweet, she said, but his eyes count everything. The bull boy swings honest, but anger hides under each laugh. Ned listened, weighed, measured. Each night he dreamt of Robert and Rhaegar tandeemed like wraiths above the trident, their sons' faces ever switching. On the 4th dawn the winter wind veered west, carrying ash and pungent smoke. A warehouse at the river end of the Street of Flower erupted in green fire. Wildfire caches, old as Maegor's reign, set ablaze by saboteurs unseen. Flames licked skyward, serpents of emerald devouring wharfs. Panic surged. Ned's guard herded small folk away while Tyrell knights formed bucket lines. By luck, or design, the blaze spared the granaries, but charred a score of empty taverns. Still, rumors swirled. The Dragon Prince, the Bastard Bull, the Lannister Queen, the Dornish Viper, each name attached to secret fire. Varys slid into Ned's path amid smoke drift, eyes moist. My lord Hand, he whispered, I weep for the innocent feathers singed when hawks duel. If the wildfire stores beneath the city ignite, none will rule but death. Find who struck, Ned ordered. Little birds chirp many tunes, Varys sighed, yet none clear, and he vanished like mist. That night, a raven from Sunspear arrived for Oberyn. Whatever its words, they set his jaw hard. He met Ned atop the western battlement. Peace is a blind wife, Oberyn said, who will dance with any man until he stabs her. Doran counsels caution, but my spear thirsts. He stared toward Casterly Rock. If the lion cheats, the viper will strike. Cheat? Ned asked. Tywin bulks his wagons with more than coin, Oberyn murmured. My spies saw crossbows packed beneath barley sacks, 10,000 new bolts. He turned sable eyes on Ned. Stop him, or Dorne marches north before the conclave. Ned felt the edge tighten. He ordered the city gates to search every Lannister wagon. Tywin protested but complied. Gold wagons stood where they were, bolts discovered, though claimed to be for wall defense. The argument festered. On the sixth night, Gendry disappeared. His northern guards found only a splintered doorway and trail of scuffle. Panic rippled. Whispers blamed Connington. Lannisters, faceless men. Barristan sealed the Red Keep. Horns blared. Ned paced before the Iron Throne until dawn painted red lines across the sky. An hour before conclave, a messenger stumbled through Mud Gate. Gendry had been snatched by cloaked men, carried to an abandoned sept outside Flea Bottom. There he broke loose, wielding an iron candelabrum like warhammer, and fled into the Ratway. Now he limped toward the keep, bruised but breathing. Relief crashed through Ned, yet deeper fear. Someone had engineered the abduction to discredit the conclave, or to slay the bastard quietly. He doubled the boy's guard, placed Ser Barristan at his side, and prayed that was enough. The great sept of Baelor filled with lords, septons, and a throng of lantern-bearing smallfolk. In its center, the High Septon. Bald as an egg, robes shimmering with golden thread, raised hands for silence. On one platform stood Gendry in plain wool surcoat with black stag. On the other, Aegon in silvery blue. Between them, Ned Stark and Barristan Selmy balanced like scales, ice and honor. One by one lords presented cases. Pycelle droned a genealogy of Robert's bastards, citing precedent from great bastards of Aegon IV. Maester Villar, flown from Old Town, proclaimed a sealed scroll verifying midwife's testimony that Elia Martell's infant son bore a distinctive birthmark behind the left knee, and that Aegon bared the mark, pale but visible, gasps echoing. Yet Gendry's arms, muscled from forge, bore the Baratheon black hair and eyes so like youthful Robert that few doubted. Connington spoke of exile, of survival, of rightful restitution. Renly answered with tales of Robert's kindness to smallfolk, asking the crowd to judge the hammer's heir, not the crown's. Hours stretched. Then Cersei, uninvited, swept forward, green silk swirling. She produced Joffrey and little Tommen, golden-haired, bright-cheeked. Here stand sons born in wedlock, not in gutters or foreign brothels, she declared. Judge by law, not pity. Murmurs flared, some approving, others mocking, for bastardy and incest whispers clung to royal twins like fleas. Cersei's glare speared any who smirked. The High Septon raised his crozier. We adjourn to prayer. He gestured the contenders toward the altar of the seven. Gendry trudged first, gaze wide, unsure. Aegon stepped with measured grace. They knelt, and from high above, where sunlight normally cascaded through rose-colored glass, a shadow streaked. A deafening crack rent the air. The window exploded, shards raining like knives. Through sundered masonry plunged a figure in dark leathers secured by rope. Assassin. He tumbled behind Gendry, blade already thrusting. Barristan moved with preternatural speed, interposing the warhammer still in his arms. Steel rang taut. The blow deflected, but the assassin twisted, second dagger sweeping toward Aegon. Ned lunged, ice half-drawn yet distance mocked him. A blur of silver and gold flashed. Jaime Lannister, sword unsheathed, tackled the assailant. Together, they crashed atop the altar steps. The hall erupted, knights bounding forward, lords screaming. Arya, in gallery shadow, launched a dirk that hissed past Ned to embed in another shadowed figure on a ledge. Yet he loosed a quarrel before falling. The bolt whipped across the sept, burying itself in the High Septon's shoulder. Chaos. Robb's voice roared for order. Renly's knights fanned shields. Connington shielded the boy Griff with his body. Gendry staggered back, shock wilding his face. Jaime rose, blade crimson. He yanked the assassin's cowl. A narrow Dornish face stared sightlessly, tongue severed. Tywin's head snapped toward Oberyn, whose eyes widened but whose lips soon curved grim acknowledgement. "The sand snakes act sometimes without leash," he growled, but suspicion coiled like viper. The High Septon collapsed. Maester scrambled. Ned helped Gendry rise, blood spattering his boots, though none of it was the boy's. Jaime cleaned steel on the fallen man's cloak, tossing a look of sardonic triumph toward Cersei, who stared open-mouthed that her brother had saved both claimants, rather than her son. Outside bells tolled again, panic, not mourning. The conclave dissolved in bedlam, yet within that chaos Ned glimpsed sudden clarity. The realm would accept no neat verdict. Fate itself had tossed daggers at compromise. Hours later in the Tower of the Hand, lords reconvened, each ringed by doubled guards. Gendry sat with face bruised, refusing wine. Aegon's sleeve bore Barristan's makeshift bandage where a shard nicked him. The assassin's corpse, when stripped, revealed a sun and spear tattoo within his armpit. The mark of Oberyn's bastard daughters. Oberyn cursed softly. They would strike at Lannisters, not at children, he insisted. Yet rumor outruns truth. Tywin's fist slammed table. Rumor will hang Dorne by neck if I unleash my men. Who profits from scandal if not those who fear the conclave's result? All eyes pivoted to Varys, who only spread hands. If chaos is a ladder, many climb. Might I suggest we look east, where dragons hatch, and south, where holy men burn idols. Fire set in distant fields brighten closer quarrels. Ned rubbed weary eyes. Enough. We will hold a second conclave in 7 days. Until then, no claimant may depart the Red Keep. Lord Tywin, Prince Oberyn, you will share command of city garrison under Lord Barristan's oversight. Any man unsanctioned bearing blade inside walls shall lose hand first, head next. When Tywin and Oberyn both began to protest, Ned slammed ice pommel to stone. This realm will have peace if I must freeze hell to gain it. They subsided grimly. That night, a raven reached Ned from Castle Black. Maester Aemon's script wavered with age but urgency. Wildlings gathering, white shadows reported beyond Frostfangs, and a direwolf with eyes like embers seen leading a monstrous pack south. Winter long foretold now marched in earnest. Ned folded the letter, feeling weight of 2 thrones and 1 wall upon his thoughts. Swords south meant ruin when true darkness brewed in the north. He walked to the small terrace overlooking the Blackwater. Across its inky reflection lanterns bobbed, Connington's blockade, Stannis gathering ships near Dragonstone, and, far beyond the horizon, sails of slavers fleeing rumors of dragons. Ned gripped the stone balustrade until knuckles bleached. Footsteps approached. Jaime Lannister leaned beside him, hair catching starlight. "I saved your bastard bull," he said. "Will that grant me reprieve when next you count honor's debts?" "It buys reflection," Ned replied. "I've reflected," Jaime mused. "Reflections show a man what others see, not who he is. Yet perhaps saving boys is better than slaying kings." "Then?" Ned studied him. "Then keep saving." When Jaime left, the wind shifted north, and with it Ned swore he tasted snow. At dawn ravens shrieked wildly. Flames climbed the western watchtower. Lannister barracks set alight. Later investigation found bolts of Dornish pattern. An hour after, 2 Dornish envoys were discovered garroted beneath Black Heron Gate, each holding Lannister gold coins in teeth. Someone stoked feud to conflagration. The city plunged toward war within its own walls.